None of this
matters.
But NVIDIA, the shovel seller in this AI gold rush, is being challenged by Intel and Qualcomm, the schmucks, with a program that could make old tech run AI. When gamers ask for backwards compatibility, that's not what they mean. Florida essentially banned children under 16 from social media, so then all the children in the state happily complied. A couple of countries in the European Union said in a memo about an anti-deforestation bill that the agreed overall objective of tackling deforestation in third world countries must not be to the detriment of the European economy. That story again: Poland, Finland, Sweden, Italy, Slovakia, and Slovenia. Your representatives are saying the quiet part loud. Kamala Harris met with newly minted Guatemalan President Bernardo Arevalo and talked about boosting their economy and other ways to stem the irregular migration from Central America. Hey, whatever gets people to remember that Kamala is also there. P. Diddy's houses in LA and Miami got diddied by the cops for violently diddying at least 3 people. Allegedly. At the base of Mount Vesuvius, archaeologists found an unfinished construction project in Pompeii, which shows me that volcanoes have to be the best way to preserve stuff.
$5, man.
Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun is stepping down, or more accurately is being dragged down by gravity after an airplane door pops off and sucks you out. Elon Musk reportedly told Tesla staff that cars must be delivered via the autopilot as a demo, both of the feature and the insurance that's needed after it crashes. Charles Ludwig, former principal deputy press secretary for New York City Mayor Eric Adams, will now be a national spokesman for the Biden campaign. Yeah, I bet he's glad he doesn't have to deflect as many sexual assault allegations. Lastly, in Texas, there were cows found infected with bird flu. It's the birds and the bees. Come on, the sex ed down south gotta get better. But that's about all the interesting stuff. You good though? NBC is in trouble with basically all of its journalists for hiring Ronna McDaniel, the former RNC chair. Not about the revolving door, or even necessarily about the election denial stuff, but the fact that for NBC, she's supposed to be the Trump whisperer after being pushed out by Trump. Visa and MasterCard are settling their antitrust problem for $30 billion, meaning now they can just lie as much as they want. A giant container ship crashed into the Francis Scott Key Bridge earlier, collapsing a major supply chain artery. And it wasn't the Evergrande this time. Speaking of collapse, Turkey and the European Union agreed to a few $100 million in recovery efforts for the earthquake last year. Better late than never? Rite Aid, the discount CVS, which is discount Walgreens, announced today that it is ready to complete its bankruptcy filing from October by late April. Better late than never. Robert Kennedy Jr. announced his running mate, and her name doesn't really matter. Washington State signed the Strippers' Bill of Rights, which includes panic buttons and keypads for the dressing room, and the right to turn you into an alcoholic. Well, the Don has done it again. Truth Social went public as DJT on the stock market, and with $4.5 billion now, the man has enough money to finally start paying his bills. The owners of the NFL met today at their annual meeting that apparently happens, and they changed a rule about the kickoff. The details of which I'm sure will ruin your fantasy draft picks somehow, but even my eyes glazed over at that. Lastly, Will Smith released a trailer for the 4th Bad Boys film, just as the Will and Jada Smith Family Foundation is mysteriously shuttering. Better for me mentally to imply a shady midlife crisis than to invoke the memory of the incident. But that's about all the interesting stuff. You good though? An upcoming Biden tell-all book has been canceled because objectively nobody wants to hear about it. One of the books about Trump sold 1 million copies. Meanwhile, the most popular Biden one was 12,000. The Disney DeSantis war is not over, but the fighting is. See, Disney had the major win with a loophole out of being governed, but also pushed for a court rule. But the federal court initially said no. They appealed. DeSantis drops out of the presidential race and returns to Florida because he has to govern for real now. So they stalemate. He settles with them in state court, and now they're delaying the federal case. Never imagined Florida would have its own demilitarized zone. Actually, that tracks. Fitch Ratings warned banks that supply is outstripping demand in the housing market, and prices might go down, making them less money. Good. The US is doing more China bad stuff by asking other countries to not repair or renovate stuff China bought from them, because their infamously big and experienced military could use that stuff. NBC Universal settled a case where they can continue to use the DeLorean. Can you imagine Back to the Future being successful without the DeLorean? Neither could they. But can you imagine how much they paid to keep it? Seriously, because the amount is secret. The Mega Millions $1 billion jackpot has one undetermined winner. And for 0.1% of that, I'll be that person's friend forever. Italy is expanding its program to take children away from their mafia parents. And if there's one thing I know that's a good thing to do, it's to mess with family when dealing with the mafia. After their accountant resigned last year from some double posting errors throughout the agency, South Carolina has found that they have a bank account that has $1.8 billion in it that's just unaccounted for. And for 0.1% of that, I'll be that state's friend forever. Thailand passed a marriage equality bill, becoming the third state in Asia after Taiwan and Nepal to do so. So if you still call them ladyboys, congrats, it's inclusive again. Lastly, in a blast from the past, Jussie Smollett is appealing his case, the Illinois Supreme Court. A fake hate crime is so refreshing, don't you think? That's about all the interesting stuff. You good though? Biden is in New York tonight, raising up to $25 million for his campaign with Bill Clinton, Stephen Colbert, and Barack Obama at Radio City Music Hall. One of these things is not like the other. It's Stephen. Duh. Trump posted to his successful social media app about his case's judge's daughter after getting a gag order. Leave it to this guy to find a loophole to stick his and be a dickhead. All eyes are on Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg and the aftermaths from earlier in the week, as he has to miraculously find an alternate route to deliver from the Baltimore port while pretending he isn't padding his resume for his next presidential bid. Today's the first day of baseball season, so checking the scores and, depending on the teams, checking your dad. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas hired a new clerk who worked for his wife and reportedly texted, "I hate black people." Yeah, that tracks. Okay, so FBI data shows crime has been going down for years, and Trump lies about it, which prompts journalists to correct him. See, now that the media has Trump to engorge themselves on, their mouths are too full to shout, "Crime wave." The Netherlands is spending $2.7 billion on keeping ASML, the company that makes the machines that go into your phone. Dutch. Considering how much America can throw around, though, it's not enough. Puxatawny Phil, the singular groundhog America decided to keep track of for some reason, just had 2 kids with his wife. His wife? No need to worry about that. Anyways, the kids were discovered by the tuxedo-clad members of the Inner Circle, the president of which communicates with the bitch through his cane. Did I mention the groundhog has been alive since 1887? The makers of Cyberpunk 2077 reported profits were up 40%. If you remember, its release in 2020 should have killed the company, so its expansion being Phantom Liberty is apt. Lastly, Dogecoin is worth $31 billion. That's about all the interesting stuff. You get that? There's a crime wave that needs to stop. It's aboard Air Force One. Apparently, journalists are kleptos? South Carolina joins Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Ohio, where the gerrymandering was found illegal but kept going anyway. Ooh, bingo! Virginia will not be getting commercially available weed, as the governor vetoed the law because, and this is real, the Washington Wizards didn't want to move there. But possession is still legal? Magic. New York City is installing gun detectors in the subway? How Okay, do they work? Mostly? Microsoft and OpenAI are gonna build a $100 billion supercomputer, and it's gonna make a profit. Oppenheimer premiered in Japan today, and yes, there were survivors there, and yes, I would also rather die than have to be the person to showcase this movie to a nuke survivor. In Detroit, a group of college basketball players were getting on a bus from the airport to the Little Caesars Arena, and a local representative saw them and responded like a gentleman. I'm just kidding. He freaked out and posted on Twitter that they were illegal invaders. Boys, recently Gypsy Rose Blanchard is single. We all need a girl who will motivate us, right? Spirit Airlines is getting $200 million for having planes that don't work. Could you get planes that do work with that? Lastly, Heinz is installing ketchup dispenser stations near Chicago restaurants famous for not serving ketchup. And after the deserved damage done, their insurers are going to be making pay. That's about all the interesting stuff. You good though?